To integrate Azure SQL with a virtual network using the command line interface. Follow these steps. First, open the Azure CLI and log in to your Azure account. You can do this by running the command as login, which will prompt you to enter your Azure credentials. Once you are logged in, you need to create a resource group or use an existing one. A resource group is a container that holds related resources for an application. To create a new resource group, use the command as group create, specifying the name and location of the group. Next, create a virtual network or use an existing one. A virtual network is a logical isolation of the Azure cloud dedicated to your subscription. To create a new virtual network, use the command as network vnet create, specifying the name, resource group, and location of the virtual network. After creating the virtual network, you need to create a subnet for Azure SQL. A subnet is a subrange of IP addresses within a virtual network. To create a new subnet, use the command as network vnet subnet create, specifying the name, virtual network, and address prefix of the subnet. Now, you need to enable the virtual network service endpoint for Azure SQL. A service endpoint is a way to extend your virtual network to Azure services. To enable the service endpoint, use the command as network vnet subnet update, specifying the name, virtual network, and service endpoints of the subnet. Then, create an Azure SQL Server or use an existing one. An Azure SQL Server is a logical group of databases managed as a group. To create a new Azure SQL Server, use the command as SQL Server create, specifying the name, resource group, and location of the server. After creating the Azure SQL Server, you need to create a virtual network rule to allow traffic from the virtual network to Azure SQL. A virtual network rule is a way to control access to Azure SQL from a virtual network. To create a new virtual network rule, use the command as SQL Server vnet rule create, specifying the name, server, and subnet of the rule. Finally, verify that the virtual network integration is working correctly by checking the status of the virtual network rule. You can do this by running the command as SQL Server vnet rule show, specifying the name and server of the rule. This will display the status of the virtual network rule, indicating whether it is enabled or disabled. By following these steps, you can successfully integrate Azure SQL with a virtual network using the command line interface. Remember to replace the placeholders with your actual values and to test the integration after completing the steps.